Yeah, I mean, like it's the Super Bowl. Like regardless, it could be the fucking Saints and it could be the Jets. I'm gonna watch it. It's the Super Bowl. It's one of the biggest. It's pretty much almost a holiday at this point.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the B Team. We got Mike, we got Muller, and we are snowed in. Mike, the snowpocalypse hit us hard. It hit us heavy. I feel like we got at least 2.5, maybe 10 feet of snow out there. I feel like dog trash after yesterday. Throat, you probably hear it. My throat is dead. Been drinking waters, taking meds. And that has nothing to do with this, what I'm about to say, but there will be no beer drinking on today's show because we are snowed in, unable to get over there, meet up with Tanczos, and get another beer. But we will do something at the end of this week, hopefully. It just won't be a part of the show. But before we get into the football, Mike, we got to give a quick shout out to Tanczos Beverages. Local spot in Bethlehem. If you're hosting a watch party, heading to a tailgate, or just settling in for a full Sunday slate, Tanczos is the place to stop first. They've got a huge selection of beer, craft brews, wines, and spirits. But the wines, I do have to throw a little thing out here. They're not your typical wines. They're like knockoff wines. Still very good. Basically everything you need to be set for kickoff. What really makes Tanczos different is the people. It's family-owned, local, and they already know what you are thinking about when you walk in the door. They know you want the beer. They know you need the beer. Go grab some beer from Tanczos. They take the guesswork out of your beer buying experience. So if you're in the Lehigh Valley, do it the right way. Tanczos Beverages, Bethlehem, stock up for kickoff. Now, Mike, we got a Super Bowl to prepare for.
Yes, we do.
We got a
It's
Super Bowl
time.
to prepare for.
It's
We got
time.
2 weeks.
And then we are going to be seeing the Seattle Seahawks taking on the New England Patriots. A rematch of the whatever Super Bowl that was. I forget what it was. Richard Sherman went off and screamed at reporters. You had Tom Brady. You had Russell Wilson throwing an interception instead of handing it off to Marshawn Lynch. Yeah, I'm excited for that. But before we get into the game breakdowns, Mike, let's get our 30-second rundown of football this weekend. All right, ready?
Come on, man.
Here we go. Mike McCarthy is now the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is hilarious. I think it's funny. Phillip Rivers interviewed with Buffalo and then pulled out, which no one saw coming. He's never pulled out in his life. Finally pulled out of something. So he's going back to high school. Jonathan Gannon's heading to Green Bay. That'll be interesting. I'm sure he'll do great there. Probably not. Vrabel leads the Patriots back to the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold becomes the first starting quarterback from the 2018 draft class to make it to the Super Bowl. And fun fact, Mike, this is going to be the third time that a Super Bowl is being played between two coaches with the same first name. And can you guess the names that have been the same on each side? It's happened 3 times. Can you guess the names?
Well, this one is Mike.
Mike?
The other one, Sean.
Nope.
Let me see. Let me think.
Give you 2 more guesses.
Okay, hold on. John.
No.
Oh, jeez.
It's way easier than you think.
That's what I'm thinking. I feel like it is. Bill.
No, it's Mike and Mike. So all 3 times it's been Mike versus Mike. It's a crazy stat that I found this morning. So yeah, that is our weekend in football. Yeah, it was a great weekend. It was an awesome weekend to be snowed in, honestly.
Yeah, it's funny. I was chatting with a lot of my buddies yesterday, and they're not too happy about where this Super Bowl is headed. And I'm like, well, it's the Super Bowl. It's going to be watched. I think they were underwhelmed with the Denver Broncos Patriots game, and then they were actually interested in the Rams Seattle game. But listen, we could. It's different for once. Yeah, does it suck having New England back in the Super Bowl being relevant again? Oh yeah, it sucks. It's terrible. But is it nice seeing, at least from my perspective, a guy that I've had faith in ever since he was drafted, now in the Super Bowl? Oh my God, hell yeah. Like, that's what is keeping me engaged, is a guy like Sam Darnold going out there after his whole journey, his 5 to 6 year journey of, being disrespected, not getting the credit he deserves now in the Super Bowl. I mean, I think again he stamped himself last week. I think he's more than stamped himself this past week. So it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun Super Bowl. It's going to be so entertaining. We don't know what's going to happen. There are so many variables. I don't think there's a straight lock. It's again, Super Bowl is always a toss up, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. These games are great. I like defensive games, and obviously with how much it snowed in Denver, I found it kind of fun. I found it fun because then you got to change everything. The game plan's got to flip. You got to, you're not taking field goals. You're taking field goals the way Will Lutz kicked his field goal. Just an absolute line drive piss missile, which got tipped, which probably changed the whole trajectory of the game.
Yeah, so I want to get into these games actually. So we can start with the Broncos and the Patriots since you're starting to get into it. It was a game really about execution because of the snow. And, it was two teams that had been waiting a while to be back in this moment. Patriots were a dynasty for multiple generations. And now it seems like variables got these boys clicking again. They look really good. They look built for the future. But coming into this game, the quarterback play was the biggest question, especially for the Denver Broncos, right? We knew what we were getting on the Patriots side. And because of Bo Nix going down, Jarrett Stidham having to step in, do you feel that the Patriots kind of had this game won before the game? How much did Jarrett Stidham starting for Bo Nix have an impact on that Denver team?
Yeah, I think right off the bat, in my opinion, it was one. Like I said, I had a feeling that Denver would cover, but they would lose, which did happen. They moved from a 5.5 spread or under to plus 5.5 to I think it was plus 3.5 at one point. It might even been plus 2.5 at one point.
At game
But
time, it was 3.5.
at 3.5, yeah. So I mean, again, there was only one person to really, a Nick Foles type of, play style that happened in, for how long that we've been watching football. It was tough, especially a guy like Stidham. He's not a Nick Foles. We haven't seen him start probably in years. It was kind of a given that the Patriots were going to win. I loved how Denver started off. I thought their defense played really, really well the whole game. Drake May, I think he only threw for 86 yards. There wasn't really much action going on, throwing the ball. It came down to special teams. It came down to coaching. It came down to the run game. And it was a very defensive game like we saw. Everyone's going to say that, the Patriots had a cake schedule. No, they had this, they had that. And the argument is it's fair. It is fair. Listen, you know what? They got it done against two of the top defenses in the league in Houston and Denver. And now they're on their way to the Super Bowl. I thought everything I said was pretty spot on. They blitzed the crap out of Jarrett Stidham, which I feel like Denver was kind of prepared for, but they just did not execute it as best as they could. I thought Jarrett Stidham didn't play that bad, personally. I think one crucial turnover where I do believe it was a fumble, personally, that kind of changed the whole script of the game. And I thought he was making the throws. I thought the run game was kind of irrelevant. They didn't really do anything. The Patriots were ready for it. And special teams. This game really came down to defense and special teams. And, Borgalis, I think his name is for the Patriots, 1 for 3 on field goals. So if he made his field goals, this game was way over than we could have waited for. Will Lutz missed field goals. Sean Payton made a bad call on 4th and 1. Before the snow. It was ugly. It was ugly, but it was defensive. But the Patriots they dogged it out. They dogged it out. Drake May used his feet, used his legs, and they sealed the victory. Now they're back. But there was a little glimmer of hope at the start where Denver went up 7-0 right off the bat. Jarrett Stidham threw that bomb to Marvin Mims, who had a very, very good postseason. I think he's starting to really find his role in that offense. But yeah, listen, the Patriots, comes down to the fourth quarter, comes down, who wants it more, conditioning, and they were ready. They were ready, and they duked it out. They battled out, and they got the win. So where I think Denver, I guess, goes from here. I know we talked to Lucas. He doesn't think that next year, this was their only shot. I kind of disagree with that. I think their team is very good and is going to continue to be very good. They just need weapons, in my opinion. Pat Bryant went down again with another injury. Troy Franklin was out. Cortland Sutton played solid. I think you can get a better receiver number one instead of him, but he's going to be the one. They just got to keep adding offensive pieces. The defense is going to be there. Bo will be healthy. I think it's looking up for them, honestly. Like, I know the division's going to be tough, but I think they're still going to be, right neck and neck with the Chiefs, neck and neck with the Chargers for the one seed in the AFC West. So I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Broncos are far from being finished. They got Bo Nix still. I think he's in, year 2 or 3. And, there was moments where I thought Sean Payton was way too aggressive. The snow's coming. You didn't know how bad the snow was going to be, but just take the points.
Yeah.
Right? Early in the game, that wasn't a situation where you needed to go get a touchdown. You had Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. No offense to the guy, but, he's not your starter. There's no need to be aggressive. Take the points. They would have been 10-10 with the snow. Who knows what would have happened in that scenario? Because maybe the Patriots then get a little more aggressive, right? Because they were able to play conservative knowing, Broncos couldn't get anything going in the snow. And just like you said, they had so many pieces out. I didn't understand some of the play calling that was going on pre-snow from Sean Payton. I just think they were way too aggressive against a team who, is one of the best teams on third down, one of the best teams of situational football. So, yeah, I thought they didn't counteract what the Patriots were bringing to the table very well.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like when you look at the actual team stats, both defensively and offensively, they were very neck and neck. I think the Patriots had a little bit more time of possession, but first downs, third downs, passing attempts, pass yards, rushing attempts, rushing yards, they were very neck and neck the whole game. This is I think we're starting to see a trend happen where fourth down, I feel like a lot of these coaches, it kind of reverts to baseball in a way where you got two righties and a lefty coming up, and you're bringing someone who's a right-handed pitcher. You go by the analytics of who these hitters are good against, whether it's a lefty, whether it's a righty, whether it's a dominant fastball thrower, whether it's a junk thrower, location. Like, I feel like what we're seeing is a lot of these coaches on fourth down, they're going by the analytics just based off what the percentage is, if they should go for it or if they should not. And I don't think, in my opinion, they take into account, the personnel, how the defense have been playing. But I feel like a lot of these coaches, we could look at Ben Johnson, for example, Dan Campbell, Sean Payton, Matt LaFleur. These guys are going for it based off what the numbers say, based off where you're at, rather than how the team has been playing on defense. The opposing team is playing on defense, how your, quarterback and running back have been playing, how your O-line has been playing. I feel like you're starting to see this trend where they would rather be aggressive and go for it and go by the analytics where, they cover their ass because that's where the percentages led us to go, instead of taking the points. And especially, they probably knew it was going to be snowy. It was going to get bad. Look at the Panthers, for example, against the Rams. Dave Canales was very conservative on fourth down, punting the ball, going for a field goal when they should. And they almost won that game. I do want to give credit to the Denver punter, who was absolutely spectacular last night. My God, he was pinning like a bunch of punts from the 10-yard line in. So you see something like that, and you're like, okay, like, this is working. We have trust in our defense. We held them to 10 points. Like, they should have kept that going instead of being so aggressive, because the game could have been 10-10 rather than 10-7. Now you're at least giving your team a chance to win in overtime. So I feel like next year we might see a little bit more conservative ball depending on the coach, but I don't know, man. It's those calls that you look back on and you're going to have regrets over. Even Sean Payton said in the post-game conference, yeah, there's going to be regrets. Yeah, I thought that was the right call. It's part of the game, and I think there's a better way to judge it rather than these ESPN Gen Tech stats saying that you should go for it. This is where I guess the traditionalist comes in, where it's like they're playing well on defense. We got 2 yards to get a first. Let's just punt it and let's trust our defense.
See, well, Mike, I agree with you that I think they bring stats into it way too much now. But I also think that there's something about, you just got to go get 2 yards. If I'm a head coach, I'm not even looking at stats. If I'm anywhere on the field and I'm like, oh, it's 1 yard that we got to get, line it up and it's big man football. Just go get a yard.
Yep.
Right? Just find a way to get 1 yard. I know it's way harder than it actually sounds in NFL. I get that. But when we're talking about the way the NFL is set up now, we'll talk about this later because I have a question for you later when we talk about the Super Bowl. But the NFL is set up to help the offenses. They want the offenses to score, right? So the NFL wants the offense on the field. Go for it any time it is 4th and 3 or shorter, right? You have all the rules in your favor. You have all the plays in your. You should be able to get that 9 times out of 10, at least 7 times out of 10. So I get it where the Dan Campbells of the world, I actually want to push back on that. I don't think that man looks at analytics. I think he's just a crazy man and wants to go for it. Now, those other guys you listed, I do think they use analytics, but to an extent, right? Sean Payton, I think, was – what's the right word for this? I don't want to be too disrespectful to it. Yeah, I guess overconfident. He was just too aggressive in his approach, right? He went into the game and said, we are not going to punt the ball. We are not going to kick field goals. We are going to score touchdowns. And then the snow came, and all of a sudden he's sitting there on the sideline like, damn, we probably should have kicked some field goals here. We would be winning this football game. So, yeah, I think the Broncos, I almost feel like they lost the game rather than the Patriots winning it in a sense. Very interesting game. It was a fun game to watch, especially when the snow came.
Like, follow, subscribe, like, follow, subscribe, like, follow, subscribe. Back to the show.
All right, let's get into the Seahawks-Rams here, Mike. So, great game, divisional rivalry. We got the Rams versus Seahawks round 3. They split in the regular season. They gave us a really good game that kind of came down to one muffed punt in the end of it. A play that is probably going to haunt the Rams for the entire offseason. It was a good game, though. A good game. Seattle, they won a gritty football game. They played their style. They never wavered. Sam Darnold looked great. He exercised his demons against the Rams. Now he gets a chance to go and capture those ghosts against the New England Patriots next 2 weeks from now. In San Francisco, where he revived his career in a way. I think Sam Darnold, he did what he needed to do in this game to win, to help the Seattle Seahawks be successful. He checked the ball down. He didn't force throws. When he scrambled, if there was nothing there, he was safe with it. He lived to see another down, another play, another drive. Where do you see, or how should I say this? What do you think where do you think Sam Darnold ranks among the league's quarterbacks right now after watching him in this playoffs and watching him throughout this season? We talked about it a little bit last week, how people look at Sam Darnold and they doubt him. They have this opinion of him based on previous experiences, whether it was with the Jets, the Panthers, right? And now we're kind of seeing what Sam Darnold's capable of when he's with an actual organization who's competent, who puts pieces around him and gets it right, So where do you see Sam Darnold now that we've really given him a fair shot over 2 seasons among the league's best?
I mean, if we go back to our quarterback rankings into the playoffs, I think I had him at like 5. And that was with, everyone was there. I think he's clearly a top 10 quarterback now. And it kills me because I really didn't have him that much in it this year. I think I had it towards the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, why would you, though?
Why
would you? Because think about it. You and I were thinking about him the same way that everyone else was, right? And no one's at fault for that, right? He hadn't shown us over multiple seasons that he could be that guy. But now he's gone out there and, he's only lost 6 games the last 2 seasons. 7 games, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. I think he's clearly a top 10 quarterback. He could even, I think 6 or 7, but like at this point, he's been, what's so fascinating about Sam and, again, his journey throughout his career Like it's not like he's been, dishing the ball to every single receiver that's on that roster. I mean, it's really been JSN. It's been a Sam Darnold JSN show for pretty much 80% of this season. They brought in Cooper Kupp, and he really has just kind of been a shadow to JSN. They bring in Rashid Shaheed. He's been more of a special teams player than he has been an actual receiver. But you see when I watch him, I see some of the old Jets, but the old good Jets, where he actually played well on the Jets. I always saw the positive in him. Obviously he had his bad times with the Jets. He had his bad times with Carolina, but you see how comfortable he is now. You see how quickly he's to me, one of the quickest quarterbacks to go through all of his reads. Like he just knows where everyone is, where he has to look. 1 second on somebody and he's on someone else, looking at those reads, depicting the zone. He's been nothing short of spectacular. And this is the problem with Sam, and I've had this conversation multiple times yesterday. Everyone's going to think of Sam Darnold as seeing ghosts, as the guy who was on the Jets. It's like that's out the window now. That's completely in the past. Now he's 14 wins with the Vikings. They let him go. 14 wins with Seattle. Now they're in the Super Bowl. Like he is the first quarterback out of that class with Baker, Lamar, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen. I can't believe I'm saying his name. Yeah. And who else was there? But he's the first one to hit the Super Bowl out of all of them. And he was the consensus number 1 overall pick that year, where the Browns instead took Baker and the Jets found Jets had Sam Darnold in their hands. They had him in their hands. But I just I have a stat here. It doesn't really relate to Darnold, but it kind of does. Out of all the receivers that are on that team last night, JSN had 10 receptions for 153 yards and 1 touchdown. The next best receiver after that had a maximum of 4 receptions for 51 yards and a touchdown, which is good. It just goes to show not only is Sam Darnold, doing what he has to do and he's making the smart play and targeting the right guy, it also shows how different a team could be with a freaking stud like Jackson Smith and Jigba. We were on him all season long, even last season. But yeah, I mean, do you want to get into the game, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, where did this game go wrong for LA?
For me, I think it was third down efficiency. I think them on third down, they were 1-8 compared to Seattle, who was 7-13. But they didn't play a bad game. Besides third down, punting a lot more. That defense in Seattle is a hell of a defense, and I'm pretty sure they let up the fewest amount of points per game out of any defense in the entire league. I thought Stafford played excellent. I thought he made his throws. It was a neck and neck game. I didn't think they played bad at all. I think there was a couple of penalties that kind of killed them, and then obviously that special teams play. That's the thing about these two teams. Like, you really had to play like flawlessly. You had to play perfect in order to win. I think Seattle maybe had they might have. I don't even think they turned the ball over. I think the Rams had 2. They had the 1 fumble, and then I think they had the muff punt. Jesus Christ! But they were neck and neck too. It was a close game, but they balled, man. I mean, they balled out, and I think Seattle balled out, and they just came up on top. They made the right calls. I think they played perfectly. And that margin of error where you have that muff punt, you have that turnover, and that other team capitalizing over is what changes you from going to Cancun and going to the Super Bowl. So
yeah, and I mean the Rams, they kind of been getting by the skin of their teeth here. You look at that Chicago game, they got lucky at the end there, find a way to win it in overtime. You look at against the Panthers, right? Tough game. And they came up against what most people think is the best team in the NFL right now in the Seattle Seahawks, clearly the best defense. And, that those little mistakes that you were able to make up for in those earlier rounds, they catch up to you eventually, especially in the championship game. If when you start playing against the league's best and you make those little mistakes, those little errors that the best teams, Super Bowl winning teams, don't make, it catches up to you. So I think that's what happened with LA. Now staying with LA here, Matt Stafford, he played a good game, possibly league MVP this year. McVay still. I mean, we said it last week. He could easily be the GOAT by the time he's done. Was this the last chance for this group of Rams players to get to a Super Bowl?
That's hard to answer because where does Matt Stafford go from here? Does he still continue to play? Does he retire? Where does Devontae Adams go from here? Does he still play? Does he retire? I think with the group of players they have now, they're very young on defense, which is a very good thing, especially with how hard the NFC and how competitive the NFC is going to get. I think their defense is going to be fine. It's just the question of the offense. They got to get more pieces on the offensive line, which again they played well. I just think with Sean McVay there, and if Matthew Stafford stays, they're going to be competitive next year. I just don't know what their future holds. Stafford, Devontae, I have no idea, but I don't think they're going to be, bottom of the table, third place in the NFC West. I don't see that happening. I see them being second or first again, kind of like Denver. I think they're going to hang there again, and they're going to be competitive. But I don't know. I feel it's a weird feeling because I feel like they've realized that those two games in the playoffs, they let the Panthers hang around. They almost lost. They they played a very good game against the Bears. They almost gave it up. It had a little bit of like Philadelphia Eagles in a way where the offense played so well, but the defense just wasn't getting it done. And then sometimes the offense, like they were putting up points, but they were getting bailed out. I don't really know how to describe it, but to answer your question, I mean, I think they're fine personally. I mean, I think it's only up. They're going to have draft picks. It's just what's Matthew Stafford going to do? That's my biggest thing. Is it solidified that he's going to come back? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because I think last night I just want to say this. I think you had two of the top receivers in the NFL, possibly the top two over the last couple years. When you look at their full body of work, I think both JSN and Puka should be in the conversation with Jamar, Justin Jefferson, CD, those guys. Especially with the way they're playing, you could argue that one of them might be the top guy at this point. But like you look at the weapons that Matthew Stafford has, you look at the weapons that Sam Darnold has, and it makes it really tough to say that these teams won't just continue to do this next year with the way their offenses are built. You said Devontae Adams, right? Is he gonna be there next year? You saw him very emotional after the game. Was that because he didn't make the Super Bowl for the fifth time, or was that because he knows this could be the end, right? So, losing a Devontae Adams but still having Puka, I don't think kills the Rams. I think you could fill Devontae Adams. I mean, guy is a Hall of Fame player, but that role that he was in at this point in his career, you can find someone to do that. The run game actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I love what the Rams do actually, where they kind of go every other drive with Corum and Kyren. I think that works great. It gives two different versions of their run game as well. Blake Corum's smaller guy, shifty. Kyren's able to kind of bounce outside, get in behind. You can check it down to him for a screen. I actually thought that on the play that kind of decided the game, where I don't know how it wasn't intercepted back in the end zone, I thought Kyren, he could have checked it down to him early and at least to get a first down, but he went for the jugular there. But yeah, I think the Rams have enough in their offense, especially with McVay's brain, that if Matthew Stafford comes back, we're going to see this team back in this spot again next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, did you have anything else on this game?
Get into
it's what I've noticed with the Rams, especially with Devontae and Puka. And real quick, I think what you said about their run game. I thought Blake Corum, like he kind of caught my eye. But I really like the way this guy plays, and I really like. It's kind of like the Bears and how they use them. They use DeAndre in certain situations, and then they use Kyle Monunga. I think what they did was very similar, and it worked. I think they'll keep that going for next year.
Yeah, I think real quick before we move on for Blake Corum, I think he doesn't get a lot of the love that he might deserve because he wears 22 and Kyren's 23, and I think a lot of people with the way those jerseys look, they just think Kyren's in all the time. So you never really know that Blake Corum's there unless you really watch the Rams, which I've had money on Kyren Williams a couple times this season where I've done the latter, and like you're looking at him and you think he just got you 10 yards and you're like, ah, shit, nope, that's 22. That's Blake Corum. So I think Blake Corum's done very good this year. He's gone under the radar, and hopefully next season you hear a little bit more from him.
Yeah, and I think he's accepted his role in like being a backup, but like also being in those crucial moments. But he was getting at least like 4 to 5 yards per carry, and I think the way that that zone blocking scheme is, it's perfect for him, and it's perfect for Kyron too, because their run game actually looked pretty decent. But real quick on the receivers, I feel like Devontae, especially Devontae, Puka and Devontae were hurt. The way I was watching Devontae, I think he got banged up big time this playoffs, and you could kind of see it. You could see it with the way he ran. He was getting smothered all playoffs, and so was Puka. I mean, Puka was, I got to give him some credit, man. He showed a lot of heart. He showed a lot of, tenacity. Even just on these, jet sweeps and whatnot, lowering his shoulder. Those guys were used a lot, and they really put their bodies on the line, and I got to give them credit because they both had a fucking hell of a season. But yeah, I just wanted to say that for them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's preview this Super Bowl game. All right, so hey, before we get into the Super Bowl talk, I think we got to give another shout out to Tanczos Beverages here. In case you are hosting a party, in case you are locking into your basement, like some of the listeners of this show do, to watch the biggest game of the year, there's only one stop you need to make, and that's Tanczos Beverages Bethlehem. They got kegs, they got beers, they got craft brews, and they got your wine cocktails now. So, Mike, whether you're planning all day to watch this game, whether you're planning all day to drink, whether you're planning for the celebration at the final whistle, you got to get over to Tanczos Beverages, where they have the greatest selection in the Lehigh Valley for your alcoholic beverages, even non-alcoholic beverages, which we have been reviewing on the show. We will not be today, of course, which sucks, but next time we'll be back. So do yourself a favor, hit Tanczos Beverages Bethlehem before the Super Bowl, and be ready to party with Tanczos Beverages this year. So, Mike, let's get into the Super Bowl preview. We got two teams that are basically elite at sticking to their strategy, to their style of play. And they both play two different ways. You got the Seahawks. They play with speed. They play with precision. They're not scared to win ugly. They, won one of the toughest divisions, if not the toughest division in the NFL this year, and had to go through the Rams again in the playoffs to get to this point. You got the Patriots, who are just straight up disciplined. One of the best teams on third down, one of the best teams of situational football. We saw it at the end of the half, actually, when Drake May went down. Got the timeout immediately. They just play at an elite level. They win those close games. Where do you see this game? Well, actually, before we get into the full breakdown, give me your thoughts on what you think about this Super Bowl. I know you gave us a little bit at the beginning, but give us some more.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the Super Bowl. Like we're going. It could be the fucking Saints and it could be the Jets. I'm gonna watch it. It's the Super Bowl. It's one of the biggest. It's pretty much almost a holiday at this point. It is one of the biggest games ever. On live television. It's the most streamed. It's gonna be fun, man. There's gonna be a lot of uncertainty in this Super Bowl. I feel like the recent ones, where you have the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Chiefs and whoever else, like kind of what you're getting. With this Super Bowl, you really don't. Seattle could be ground and pound all day. Drake May could be slinging 50 times a game. You don't know what you're going to get because these defenses that they have, they are elite defenses, and they're going to smother the opposing quarterbacks. They are going to fool. They're going to disguise a lot of coverages. It's going to be a big chess match. It's going to be a huge chess match between the two. I'm excited to see what Josh McDaniel does with the Patriots. I'm excited to see what Mike McDaniel does, or Mike McDonald does with Seattle. Mike McDaniel, Mike McDonald, tomato, whatever. But a lot of uncertainty, in my opinion, because you have two first-time guys going to the Super Bowl. This is Vrabel's first time going to the Super Bowl. This is Mike McDonald's, I think, second year as a head coach going to the Super Bowl. It's a big moment, and I'm intrigued to see how they handle it. You're going to see early. You're going to see early on, the effectiveness of like what the other coach is doing. So a lot of questions, in my opinion. There's nothing, when you see Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid in Super Bowl, you really know what's going to happen. But This season's a completely different one because, again, people shit talking the Patriots about their schedule. People crap talking Sam Darnold about, who he is as a quarterback. Like, we're going to see one of those two things falter. It's either Sam Darnold's going to see ghosts like he did against when he was on the Jets, or, Drake May's not going to do as well, and he's going to be a little, stunned of what Seattle's going to show them. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's going to be an awesome game. Do you want to do a little bit of guess the line here, Mike?
Sure.
So the opening line here, we got the Seattle Seahawks against the Patriots. Patriots are going to be the home team in this championship game. Mike, what do you think the line is right now?
Maybe like -1.5. It might even be a pick 'em at this point.
They have the Seattle Seahawks at -4.5 at the moment. So they're favoring Seattle greatly. And, I think over the next couple of weeks, that line's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Right now is the time to go get the Patriots if you want to take them. And, I think Seattle's defense is the best group in this Super Bowl. But then when you look, the game's not just going to be won or lost with that group, right? There's going to be a bunch of other moments in this game that could make or break the Patriots, make or break the Seahawks. And, that Patriots offense we were talking about throughout the whole show, they're disciplined. They take care of the football. You look at their defense. They don't really get penalized too often. They try not to hurt themselves. Christian Gonzalez is playing possibly the best football in the playoffs at the moment. And, when I look at this game, Mike, I want to ask you, where do you see this game being won and lost?
I have it written down. I have it written down for both teams. Special teams and making the call on fourth down, making the right call. I think that's what it comes down to. I truly do. I think like we saw in the Denver Patriots game, I think one missed call, whether it's a 4th and 2, 4th and 1, you're at, the opponent's 35-yard line, and it's a close game. You have to make that right call, and you can't let it. You have to take advantage of it. I think that's what this game is. It's going to be close. I don't see it being a blowout. I think that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to making the field goals, which is so boring to say that it's going to come down to special teams, but special teams has been a massive, it's been a big aspect of this whole playoffs for every single team. Whether you're muffing a punt, whether you're missing a field goal, whether you're kicking the ball out of bounds on a kickoff, whether you're punting within the 10-yard line, like it's going to be super important for these teams to make the right call and to not get overly aggressive, because then if it pays off, it pays off. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Now you're letting yourself not get the 3 points and you're giving them a chance. That's where I think it comes down to, which is boring to say, but that's what I see.
So just talking about the special teams here, Mike, Chicago, I believe it was them. They actually stopped putting someone back there because they muffed 2 punts at the beginning of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the game yesterday. At what point is it just not worth putting someone back there in certain scenarios, right? If the ball is going to possibly get pinned inside your 5-yard line, what's the point of even putting someone back there to catch it? Just let it bounce. If it sticks, it sticks. If it goes in the end zone, you get it at the 20. I don't see the point in putting someone back there in these situations. You look at that Rams one yesterday. Do the Rams win the game if no one's back there? Maybe. They might. That takes points off the board for Seattle. It's a weird situation, and it's tough, right? Because you can almost look at the analytics for going for like 4th down, 4th and 1, 4th and 2 plays, similar to this, right? Okay, what do the analytics say? Like, is it better that we put someone back there on our own 5 or 10-yard line to catch this ball, and we save 10, maybe 3 yards on the play? Or do we put no one back there until we're going to receive it at the 40-yard line? Right? It's a interesting situation, and I'm sure if you look at every time someone's muffed a punt, I'm sure that the analytics would point to saying like, hey, maybe from the 20-yard line and back, we just no one's back there. Just let them punt it, see what happens.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially with teams like the Rams, the Bears, who, they had these big moments happen to them, especially in the playoffs, what they do next season. I don't think the NFL will ever get to a point where we're putting no one back there. It's just they would change the rules if teams started doing that.
Yeah, and it's conditions too. Like it's it's like in Seattle, yes, it's cold and it's probably windy too. And, you're going to San Francisco, you're going, a couple hundred miles south where you're going to be in the Bay Area. The conditions, it's going to be probably nice, in my opinion. It's not going to be crappy. It might be windy. It's crazy to think that this is what we're talking about. It's really going to come down to special teams. Like, and this is where, what is your game plan? How are where does the defense stand? Has the defense been on the field for 5 minutes and you've been holding time of possession? Are they tired? Are your guys tired? There's so many little things that comes into a fourth down call where you got to take advantage of it, And I think with the way that both of these teams are, they're aggressive. Josh McDaniels, I mean, maybe not as much the Patriots, but Seattle's going to be aggressive, and the Patriots got to be ready for it on those short calls because they could do it. They got a good run game, and Kenneth Walker has been spectacular in the postseason. We haven't seen this all season long from him. A couple of games in the regular season, but he's been excellent in the postseason games. So, and another thing too, whoever wins the coin toss, you better defend. You got to defer that.
Yep.
So,
I agree with you, and working off what we were just talking about, right? Coaching decisions, looking at both teams' coaches and their playing styles, and oh man, it's just some moments, right? Right. My mom texted me before this. Do you want to go sledding?
Oh yeah.
I responded saying we are in the middle of recording, and then she follows it up with a Zoom call, or not a Zoom call, a FaceTime. So now I can't see shit on my screen. I can't. It's unreal.
You are still Muller.
All right, there we go. We're good. We're good. We're good. You see me?
I do see you. I do.
So back to what I was saying. Looking at both coaches, thinking about coaching decisions here. Which coach do you give the upper hand to in this big game situation? Right? We're talking about a Super Bowl. We're not talking about a wild card game. We're not talking about Week 16. Patriots versus Seahawks. We're talking about the Super Bowl where every decision can have an impact on the outcome, an impact on do you get a ring on that finger, an impact do you leave that game happy, or do you feel like you wasted, 21 games of your season?
Oh, it's so tough to decide. I'm telling you, this is the one Super Bowl. It's like anything can happen. You just don't know. Like the heart in me is like, I think Vrabel is going to have the upper hand because he's had more experience. He knows the organization, in and outs. He's built for the moment. He's been waiting to get to this moment for years. I feel like he would be a little bit more prepared because Josh McDaniel has also been there and he's won in that big stage. Mike McDonald, this is his first time, but I don't think anything's affecting him. He just seems like a heartless, badass mofo where he doesn't care what people are saying. He's just going to go out there and get wins. So I can't discredit him either. In my opinion, I just think with Vrabel, he got the team there. He knows how it works. He knows that they got to be physical right off the bat, and he's going to try to get it done. He's built for the moment. So
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. I do think the Patriots have the upper hand when it comes to coaching. I like Vrabel a lot. We've spoken about Vrabel many times on this show. I think Vrabel can easily dictate the pace of this game. And part of dictating the pace of this game is how well that Patriots front can deal with that Seahawks D line, right? And do you feel like this Patriots O line can deal with the intensity and the way that this Seahawks D line plays? I think a lot of this answer actually stems from, can the Patriots get the Seahawks off the field, right? Because if they can't get the Seahawks off the field, and we saw this last night, if you allow this D line to be able to just come after you and come after you and come after you with a lead, right, it makes life hell for the other offense.
Yeah, I think I have a couple things written down for Seattle, what they need to do to stop the Patriots, and I have like a couple things for the Patriots, vice versa.
Let's hear it.
Well, for both, I mean, I'll start with the Patriots. I mean, they got to start physical right up front, and that starts with the O-line. They got to get the run game going. They got to it really is going to be who's more physical up front, to at least what you said, where they're going to dictate how the game is played. I think we'll see that right off the bat. And I think another thing for the Patriots, what they need to do is they need to shut down Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think they know that he is the focal point when they throw the ball. He is the guy that they want to target. Christian Gonzalez, they're going to make him shout. Listen, I love Christian Gonzalez. He's a hell of a player. He's going to need some help with JSN. JSN is that good of a player where he can change. If you put, man coverage, Sam Darnold's going to target that, whether they have safety help or not. He's going to find JSN as much as possible. So they got to find a way that they got to shut down Jackson Smith and Jigba, where then Seattle has to pivot and use guys like Rashid Shaheed and Cooper Kupp and AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo, and Jake Bobo. They got to find a way. For Seattle, same thing. From a defensive perspective, you got to start off hot off the bat. You can't get bitched by the New England Patriots offensive line. You got to spy Drake May. You got to find a way to contain Drake May. Have your edges, playing far on the outside. Try to contain him. Have a spy on Drake. I think that will help a lot because Drake can take off. And again, I think they need production. It kind of goes hand in hand. They need production from their other receivers. They need production from Cooper Kupp. A big moment from him. They need production from Rashid Shaheed. You made a trade for him. You got to use him. They need production from their tight ends. Like, it's going to come down to the trenches. It's going to come down to special teams, but it's really going to be about physical football, and who's going to be more physical. That's what I think. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we can point out, but the main things is what I think.
No, I think you're not going to find many people that disagree with you. And over the next 2 weeks, we're going to have storylines come out. We're going to have guys talking. We're going to, have people overanalyzing this game. ESPN heads are going to be talking out their ass, right? And, by the time the game comes around, all these opinions that we have right now are going to be the opinions that we have at game time, right? No matter what is said throughout the week, the teams are the teams, the style is the style. None of these teams are going to 180 on us going into a Super Bowl. If they do, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. So I want to, before we get out of here, I want to get your way too early prediction. Right, who's winning this football game? Why they're winning? I have an opinion on this already.
Oh, like this is like head and heart, right?
I can go first if you want.
Yeah, I want to hear what you say.
All right, so my head is telling me that the Seahawks. Actually, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to do this, everyone. My head and my heart is with Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. Right, they have the best defense in this game. I think Sam Darnold's playing at an elite level. Right, he put the whole 2018 draft class on his back this week, getting him into a Super Bowl. I think he's going to win the Super Bowl. He's playing the best football of his career. He's playing the best football in the league right now. He's got JSN. He's got a phenomenal defense. I don't see how Seattle loses this with the way that their offensive production has been all year. I don't think the Patriots can keep up with them. I think the Patriots are going to put up a fight, but second half's going to roll around, and Seattle's just going to fucking dust them.
I think I'm going to agree with you. But I got to ride with Sam. And we said this before. Whoever comes out the NFC is probably going to win it. I'm going to stick to it. I think Sam is built for the moment. I think he's going to shut up the haters. And it's so difficult because I feel like the Patriots foundation is just so built for a Super Bowl. Even though it hasn't been pretty, even though they don't have the prettiest weapons, they could get it done too. But I still feel like Seattle's the underdog. I don't feel like Seattle being a favorite makes them a favorite, just based off the Vegas line. I feel like they're an underdog, and I feel like they're gonna come into the game thinking they're an underdog. And thinking that the Patriots are getting the money on them and that, they're still the dynasty that they are. I'm going to go against it. I'm going to take Seattle. And I think Sam finally gets his ring, which he's well deserved.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think America would be crazy not to hit Patriots in the Patriots line right now. So we're going to have that storyline 100%. And if you think players and coaches don't hear that, I think Vrabel's actually commented on it before. I think Drake May's commented on it before about the betting line being against them, right? So I think that Seattle is going to hear some of that noise. They're going to see a lot of the money going on the Patriots, especially this week where the line's at. And, we're going to get to game time, and they're going to have that chip on their shoulder like America's on the Patriots, right? They don't want Seattle to succeed here. And I think Seattle's going to come out and get the win. Huge game for the Jets. People forget that. Jets fans everywhere are going to rejoice when Sam wins. Huge game for you guys. The third pick's going to be completely worth it once he wins the Super Bowl against the Patriots.
That's an iconic tweet. I saw that before. That is like an absolute iconic tweet. But it's no Jets fan hates Sam Darnold. Like I think a lot of Jets fans, and except for the dumbasses who wanted Zach Wilson, like they're rooting for him. I've been rooting for him ever since he's left, and I hope he gets it done, man. Because seeing the way his journey went, like I think he's built for it, man. I truly do. He's at a stage in his life right now, especially as a quarterback, where he knows that he can go win it. He knows where the position that he's at right now. It's not, coincidence. It's him putting the work in, him getting better as a quarterback. I think he goes and does it. I truly do. I'm rooting for him so hard. It's shit. I might be a Seattle fan after this.
All right. Well, let's not go that far. The colors they will pair up well with your Jets jersey. But yeah, so that's all I got for today. Do you have anything you wanted to add or you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, Mueller, again, another great season down the drain. That is year 5. We got again, one more game left. Love you, kid. I'm glad we do this. This is so fun. I can't wait for the off season, but we got one more game to power through. I'm assuming Mortals will wait a little bit before. I don't think.
Oh yeah, no, we're not doing more. We'll do Mortals next week.
Yeah. I mean, listen, another great year. There's been a lot of challenges this year, for me and you both. But, we put the time in, we gave the people what they wanted, and we ain't stopping. This shit's going to the moon, and the people know that. So just keep following, guys. We're going to have a lot of you guys on in the off season. We're going to have a lot of interviews. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff. A lot of golf will be back. I can't wait. People think that NFL is over. We're done now. We just keep going. Mm-hmm. This is that's where we really shine. So,
yeah, I think I just scheduled the golf videos to start coming out in 2 weeks. I think it's a week after the Super Bowl. So we're almost there. We're in there.
We are. We got a lot of good things coming up this summer. I know for you, obviously where you're going on in life, we got a lot of fun stuff, man. It is, and it's great that we can showcase it by us recording, and the people love it, and we love that the people love it, and we love it. So It's been fun, man. Another year down the drain. We are closer to 10 years of doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Crazy to think. Crazy to think.
Subscribe to the freaking pod.
Send us to the moon. Subscribe.
Bang. All right, Mike. I'll see you, dude.
Goodbye. See you guys later.